Good evening, everybody. It is, pardon me, 7 o'clock, and I would like to call the Monday, March the 27th regular meeting of Kimberley City Council to order, held here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. You'll notice a couple of empty chairs tonight. Councillor McBain is away on vacation somewhere in Europe, not exactly sure where, but he's having a good time, I'm sure. CAO Somerville is also not here tonight. He too is on vacation. And Councillor Roberts' chair is empty, but she has joined us via Zoom tonight. Thanks for doing that, Sandra. Much appreciated. So we have a number of items of correspondence as part of our late items tonight. 3 specific items, and we'll deal with those under section 1.2 of bylaws, if that's okay with you, Maurice.
That is okay, thank you.
Do we have any other late items?
There's no late items.
That's it?
No other ones.
All right, having seen with those additions, could I have a mover to adopt the agenda as amended? Councillor Royer, thank you. And Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on March the 13th. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. Any opposed? The motion is carried. Perfect. So we do have a, pardon me, we do have a public hearing this evening. And as we move into that now, I have kind of a statutory process to read out. Please bear with me while I do this. And it has to do with the overview of the public hearing procedure. So tonight we will be hearing submissions by telephone and in person here in council chambers, should anyone here tonight wish to speak. And if anyone listening via the YouTube stream would like to share their comments on these bylaws, please call now. And that number to call is 800-741-7180. And when prompted, the meeting number or access code is 2774-288-4049. When asked for a password, simply enter the pound or hash symbol, and you will be connected and be able to hear the meeting, but will be muted on hold until it's your turn to speak. If you're listening via live stream on the phone, make sure to mute or turn down the volume on the live stream to avoid causing audio feedback. There is a delay between the stream on YouTube and live proceedings here in council chambers. So be wary of that. We'll need to navigate. And you will let us know that you would like to speak by entering #9 or *9, I should say, on your phone to raise your hand. You will know when it's your turn to speak when you hear that your microphone has been unmuted. We ask everyone for patience during the hearing. We'll be moving slowly. The technology is not perfect. The process is a little bit laborious, so please be patient as we switch between speakers. Any person who believes their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given an opportunity to be heard. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. Members of council may ask questions during your presentation for clarification. However, the main function of council members at this hearing is to listen to the comments presented and not debate the merits of the proposed bylaw or any of the comments presented. It is a hearing. You will be given 5 minutes for your presentation. And you don't have to take up the full 5 minutes, but 5 minutes will be the maximum. And I will call for presentations 3 times before closing the hearing. And once the hearing is closed, we will be dealing with the item on the agenda as we move through the meeting this evening. So thanks for your cooperation, your patience as we do this. And I would now like to call on our planning manager, Troy Pollock, to provide an overview of what we're doing this evening.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll an overview of the proposed bylaw here. Proposed bylaw 2739 is amendment number 165 to the zoning bylaw 1850. It proposes to rezone the property located at 501 Forest Crown Drive from the R9 residential zone to the R1 zone. And this is proposed to accommodate the construction of a duplex dwelling unit and to subdivide that duplex along the common wall so that each half duplex unit's on its own title. The property is currently a vacant corner lot situated in phase 3 of Forest Crown, which is nearing build out, I suppose. If developed, this proposal would be the first duplex dwelling in Forest Crown, although reminder to council that use would be permissible in any R1 zone parcel as a result of the housing availability and affordability amendments adopted last fall.
All right, excellent. Thanks for that, Troy. Before we begin with the verbal submissions, Maurice, how many written submissions did we receive? Do you have a number? Yeah.
I can speak to that, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Troy.
Yeah, there is 14 written submissions, 10 that were included in the original agenda package, and then the additional 4 items that were added as late items here today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, as I mentioned, each speaker will be given 5 minutes for your presentation. And I would now like to call a first time for submissions. Should we start with Council Chamber? So take the podium, Murray, and because everything's being recorded, of course, and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Good evening, council members. My name is Murray McLean, and I'm here to address the proposed zoning change of 501 Forest Crown Drive. My wife and I live at 503 Forest Crown Drive. We border 501 and therefore qualify as the most affected person in this rezoning application. We purchased our lot in 2007. We were the first in line to choose one of the 34 lots offered in stage 1 of phase 3. During the purchase negotiations, the subject zoning property was identified as a green space, and because of that, we chose 503 Forest Crown Drive. We even paid a premium because it was next to a green space. I'm not here to go into what and how Anthem United, the developer, misrepresented the lot. That's an issue that I'll be taking up with the developer. But I might add, the city might look into why this lot was assessed for $1 for the last 15 years. I'm here to oppose the zoning of 503 from R9 to R1 for the development of the duplex. Let me read United Anthem's mission statement put forth in the original guidelines of phase 3. United's goal is to create an atmosphere that will protect the integrity and value of each resident investment. It only stands to reason that elected council members would have the same mission statement. Who else can we turn to when confronted with zoning changes that will affect our individual properties? There's a derogatory term used by developers. Sorry, the term's NIMBY. It means not in my backyard. It's a derogatory term because it focuses on the opposition who don't like what's being proposed. They don't present facts. They just present motions. On the other hand, there are those who develop an identity, would identify as NIMBYs, but have facts as of why they propose the changes of zoning. These are individuals that council needs to listen to. There's a current trend to base decisions on higher density and affordability. These are very important objectives, but not all decisions should be based on these objectives. In this zoning, this would be a false narrative. I'll explain. Why would we need higher density in Forest Crown? There are currently 6 areas developed or are under construction in Forest Crown. That leaves about 16 to 18 areas in the master plan of Forest Crown for future development. In those 16 and 18 areas, there's 9 areas designated for semi-detached and multifamily. Why force duplexes in an area that's planned for single family? As for affordable housing, these duplexes will probably be marketed at 650 to 800,000. It's hard to believe this qualifies as affordable housing. In closing, please do not change the existing zoning. There are ample areas designated in Forest Crown Master Plan for duplexes and family and multifamilies. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Murray. Who's next, Maurice?
Is there somebody
Sure.
Oh,
else?
name and address, please, Chris.
Chris Willis, Forest Crown 128. Came here tonight because I was involved in the last one where it involved the carriage house behind the home. In that one, out of the letters that were just adjacent to the construction, 100% opposed. Out of all the letters in the area that came in, 92.8 opposed. Yet council ordered. And some of the rationale I heard was, we need the money and NIMBY. Again with the NIMBY. I did do some research, found a study that was done in Toronto. It was on infill housing, creating duplexes. One of them was where a contractor bought an existing home on a big lot for $500,000. Because of the changes, and Toronto had done the same thing where they thought, we'll put more housing, smaller areas. Their issue, however, was there was no residential expansion that they could do, but they did this. So they went through and changed a bunch of their zoning to make it, pardon me for one moment, to change it to make it easier. And this developer went ahead with this house. We're looking at higher density. Words that are always out are availability and affordability. Well, in this case, that house that sold for $500,000, a triplex was built, and each one sold for $900,000. That's not an answer to affordability. And at the end of their study, they came up with the conclusion that the infill housing and duplexes and such are not the answer. They're not getting enough room. They had to rezone property outside of the city so they could do developments there that were multifamily apartments, stuff like that. I'm in the same boat as Mr. Jones. We bought there because it was R9. Single resident. We bought it years ago, and that's why we moved and retired here. And now we're changing when there's half a dozen lots left. Seems unrealistic to me. When I know through the planning, the town, there's a lot of residential space, not much commercial. That's the bigger issue, but there is a lot of room for residential expansion. So why not set up an area where people buy into it, knowing it could happen, and go from there? I think there's been several places in BC that have looked at tiny homes and done subdivisions of those. They're affordable. People can get in at the ground market. They can put their money into it. When they save enough capital, move into a regular home. I think that the city would be better off to look at projects like that to assist people at a lower income than to put duplexes in the $600,000 to $900,000 on the market. It's not going to help them. That's all I have to say.
All right, awesome. Thanks,
Any
Chris.
questions? CBC it was online.
Thanks for the comments.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Anybody else in council chamber wish to speak? There are. We can do that. Yeah, sure. Maurice?
Yeah, no problem. Oh,
Save the batteries.
Mrs. Galveston, your mic is unmuted. It's time for your submission to the public hearing.
Thank you. This is Eileen Gallison. I live at 500 Forest Crown Drive, so it's immediately across the street from the property that's under discussion tonight. When we purchased our lot here, we were told very clearly that the remnant A was not to be developed. All of the planning material provided to us at that time, this is back in 2008, shows this lot as green space. I understand that's not actually the topic tonight, but I wanted to reiterate that was the impression that we all had when we purchased here. It should also be noted that we were among the first people to buy into this new section of Forest Crown, like Murray McLean, who spoke earlier. We purchased in 2008, and we were actually looking to purchase a lot on that side of the street. We would have bought Lot A if it had been available, but we were told, no, it's green space. So I'm very distressed to learn that there has been this change in the status of Lot A back in 2019 from the zoning that we originally thought it had. We were not notified of this or given a chance to voice our opinions about this change. And now we find out that a developer not only wants to build on what we think of as green space, but also wants to degrade the lot further by requesting a change in zoning to allow a duplex in a neighborhood that contains only single-family homes. Both of these changes affect not only our property value, but the overall aesthetics of this portion of Forest Crown. And while I agree that Kimberly could use more affordable housing, it's important for the city to stand behind its original zoning for the people who made our decisions to purchase land and build expensive homes in this development. This one lot will not make a difference to affordable housing. The original plans called for many multi-family homes in Forest Crown over time, and there are areas designated for that purpose. The developer and the city should remain committed to fulfilling that plan and not force a change on owners who have lived here for up to 14 years. Thank you for your time. That is the end of my comments.
Thanks very much, Eileen. Appreciate your feedback.
Mr. Hendricks, you are the next caller. And I just unmuted. I unmuted your phone, and you can now submit your comments to the public hearing.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Hendricks. My wife Sheila and I are building a home at 504 Forest Crown Drive. I would echo the comments that you have already heard. It's a good thing to be part of a democracy where our voices can be heard. It's also important within a democracy for those voices to carry weight in the decision-making process. I don't know where the original proposal came from to put the duplex in, but it definitely is out of keeping with the neighborhood that exists. And in our purchase of our lot, like you've heard before, we understood that these were single-family dwellings. Affordable housing is an important part of any community, but it needs to be thought through, and it needs to be part of a coherent whole. A lot designated at this point in time in an area that is all single-family dwellings is none of those things. And to change the game at this point is difficult for those of us who live or will be living in the area, and I feel lacks integrity in terms of decision-making overall. And I think the comments that preceded me said that clearly. There's obviously been some disinformation from the developer to some of the early purchasers of lots in the area, and that notwithstanding, that is a separate issue to be followed up on. But that notwithstanding, the idea that a duplex would go in at this point in time, I don't think has merit. It doesn't fulfill the objectives which are being put forward, that is to create affordable housing, and it doesn't fit in terms of consistency with the overall plan for that neighborhood. There are 41 lots going in down the street from us right now, and again, those lots should have a consistent approach, a consistent sort of building code or parameters. Are they single family? Are they duplex? Are these apartments? It's important for people to know that when they buy in. So I would reiterate the comments, and I would encourage you as councilors to listen to the voice of the constituents when it comes to what we see being viable options for this lot, but also in the decision-making process overall. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bruce. Appreciate the feedback.
We have one speaker online. Mrs. Muffet, your phone's been unmuted, and you can now submit your comments for the public hearing.
No, I have no comment. Thank you.
So is that anybody online?
That's all the people that were online.
Okay, so I will call for a second time for comments. Go ahead, Carl.
My name is Carl Lauren. I'm the I did the application for rezoning. I think there, I emailed a pretty detailed email today, kind of clarifying our thoughts around a lot of the letters that were received, as well as our general idea behind the rezoning. I think that a lot of people are getting hung up on housing affordability. The lot's gigantic. Like short of a few more meters, it could be 2 lots. It's a waste to just leave it as the current zoning and not densify it a little bit more. It doesn't take away from the development at all. And with everyone getting hung up on affordability, it will become more affordable than a single family house. There is a lack of housing in the community. There's a lack of new housing in the community, and there's a lack of rentals. And everyone just assumes we're going to build these and dump them. Our intent is actually to rent them out. You know, as much to the dismay of people in Forest Crown, there's probably an equal amount who are like, oh my God, I can maybe rent something up there. We're not going to dump them and try to sell them for $750. We see a disconnect in the market. I feel like as a company, we're good at addressing disconnects in the market. I think we've proven the ability to create diverse housing in the community. And there's no one with more vested interest in Forest Crown than Tyee. Like we're selling a ton of stuff up there. If I thought this would degrade the subdivision, why would I do it? Like I think in fact, we've found a lot that no one thought was a lot. They thought it was green space. We inquired with Anthem. It was like, no, that's a lot. You want to buy it? So we bought it. And now we're maximizing the ability on that lot, and we're creating it 2 housing places on 1 gigantic lot. That same house can get built without being a duplex. It doesn't deteriorate from the subdivision at all. In fact, I feel like landscaped coming up the main road, it's going to be advantageous and increase the value of not only phase 3, but our new phase 4, and then wrapping around to phase 6, phase 7, all the way through there. Everyone has to microanalyze this one lot. We look at it from a bigger picture, and I feel like it needs to get filled, and it needs to get filled with the right product. And I'm a firm believer in the product we propose. We're transparent on what we want to build. Like we could have just said we want to do a carriage house or whatever. I think that the design that we've done, which attached to the email, is similar to our duplexes we built in Mark Creek Landing. They do not detract from a subdivision. Anyone that says that should drive around phase 3 and look at some of the housing that has been put up. I don't know. I just feel like people are missing the point here, and they're looking at it too singularly. And I appreciate it. That's what the public hearing's all about, but I stand behind our submittal, and we're dedicated to moving it ahead this year. It's something that the city needs. It needs more housing, it needs more rental housing, and it needs more rental housing in some of these subdivisions that there just isn't any. People are clamoring to be in Forest Ground, but they can't rent a house because no one wants to rent their house. So that's my spiel.
Thanks very much, Carl. Okay, I will call a third and final time for submissions. What's that? No, I'm afraid not, Chris. Not part of the process of the public hearing. Yeah. So that's it, Maurice, online?
Yes, there is no other caller online.
All right, with no further submissions then, the public hearing for proposed bylaw 2739 is now closed. Thanks, everybody, for comments, cooperation, and patience as we work ourselves through the process. Okay, first up, pardon me, under bylaws this evening is the zoning amendment bylaw 2740 for 304th Street. And the motions on the table are that council approve, can I do this as first, second, and third, Maurice?
It would definitely be better to just keep them separate.
One at a time?
Yes,
Okay,
please. Mm.
we can do that. The first motion is that council approve first reading of zoning amendment bylaw 2740. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Royer, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Roberts. Troy, comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, just as a reminder here, this zoning application was reviewed by council at a previous meeting, and council had approved moving forward on this one without requiring or without having a public hearing. But utilizing that process that's allowed under the legislation, they're still required to give notice of first reading. So following that previous decision of council, staff did issue notice to adjacent property owners, published a notice in the paper and posted on the bulletin board downstairs, as well as having information available on the city's website. And at this time, or certainly at the time of report writing, and currently there's been no submissions received about the proposal, which involves, so again, the subject property here is 523 304th Street. It's proposed to rezone that site from automobile commercial zone C3 to the commercial zone C1. And this is to allow for multi-unit mixed-use development, mixed-use commercial and residential units. You know, the details of that, I guess, there is some preliminary concept plans attached here, the report, but those will be resolved and confirmed through future development permit consideration and building permit, of course. But at this time, what we're recommending here is approve first three readings, and what before the bylaw may be adopted, we need to wait on comment from Ministry of Transportation there, given that it's right at the edge of the highway, but within 800 meters of the highway. So we'll be coming back at a future meeting if council proceeds here with the recommendations.
All right, excellent. Thanks very much for that, Troy. Council, any questions or comments further to previous conversation?
If I may.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I just looked at the presentation there and the drawings and how there's a little bit of everything there for something that's been vacant for a long time, and I think it will really help the other businesses down there to draw people down there and just extend our Platzel, essentially, if you will, arm or a leg of it, for lack of better. I support this 100% as a business owner as well. Like, it's going to bring all kinds of people, which is awesome.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate those comments. Further, council? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, sorry, Sandra. Just holler when you have your hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no worries. The one thing I wanted to comment on was that it's really encouraging to realize that we have a nice piece of property that has been certified having previously been brown land. And that means it's doable.
Thanks for that, Sandra. You're absolutely correct. It's nice to see. Okay, hearing no further comments, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Second motion on the floor is the council approve second reading of the 2740 bylaw. Mover, please. Councillor Royer moves and Councillor McGuire seconds. Further conversation or discussion? All those in favor? That motion is carried. And finally, the council approved third reading of zoning amendment bylaw 2740. Mover, please. Councillor McGuire, thank you. Councillor Karen seconds. Further, any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, so the final leg adoption will come back at a future meeting.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. All right, thanks very much, Troy. Okay, now with respect to zoning amendment bylaw 2739, which is 501 Forest Crown Drive, the first thing I'd like to do is to receive those items of correspondence that came in as late items. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Royer, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Cairns. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, the motion on the floor is that council approve third reading of bylaw 2739 for 501 Forest Crown Drive. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Royer, thank you very much. And Councillor Karen seconds. Discussion. Councillor Royer, go ahead.
I did some extensive research on this one because I don't want Forest Crown to feel that they're not being heard. So I personally visited the 503, 504, and 507 in person, and we had a wonderful discussion. We had everything on the table, and we had a great discussion. I drove around Forest Crown 3 times to see if this would fit with Forest Crown profile. And I found some places had triple garages, double garages, and you know, we do have a mixed bag there. What really makes my decision really easier is I live on Archibald, and there is a duplex located behind the police station that I didn't even know was a duplex. And it just fit right in with no issues whatsoever. So I've seen the pictures and everything, and I've seen what, you know, the reputation of Tyee and everything. I'm just not seeing a problem at this point.
Thank you for the comments, Councillor Royer. Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, I appreciate the presentations given tonight on this one. And yeah, I'm looking at this lot, and from what I understand, the lot's big enough that you could technically subdivide it under the current zoning. So putting a duplex on it actually, in my opinion, as far as the aesthetics of the local development, is probably more appeasing, in my opinion, because of the impact putting 2 single units would have. I feel like it would look a little weird because they would be a little bit smaller than other lots. What else? I do have concerns around the history of this. I believe it's the Patterson letter that was submitted with a image. No, maybe McLean. I think it was in McLean. Yeah, the one in McLean. There was a few of them that didn't look as relevant because they had green space as including 503 and 505 as well, which doesn't make any sense because they were obviously developed with services when this was originally opened and developed. But 501 in particular, my understanding is that this lot was never serviced during development. And that indicates to me that during development, the developer either was planning to develop this later on as part of a different stage, or that it was actually intended as green space. And I mean, we do have some concerned citizens here identifying that they were told by the developer that it was going to remain green space. Yeah, it all sounds a little fishy to me, but as it stands, the lot is zoned as R9. It is a single lot that was owned by the developer and has now been sold to Tyee by the sounds of it. And I see no problem with the changing from R9 to R1 at this time.
Councillor McGuire. Go ahead, Sue.
Thanks so much to everyone for coming and speaking tonight, and also on the phone. I really appreciate hearing. And there's been really excellent points raised, and you are heard absolutely. And all the letters have been read, and it takes a lot of thought. A lot of thought is put into this. So as other councillors have mentioned, it's a really unfortunate history how things went down here. And I can commiserate. I am a strong proponent of increasing the availability and affordability of housing. And it's not just about affordability. There's a lot of people looking for places, need to come into town, and they can't find higher end rentals either. And I hear, I look at this and I look at the design. It's consistent. It's a high performance home. It's more energy efficient, I would say, given that it's a duplex than a single family dwelling. It doesn't, there's a lot of things that wouldn't even give you the sense of the old style duplex, which pops up in a lot of our minds when we think of a duplex as something that would stand out as being quite different. I think the design is fitting within the neighborhood, and yeah, I would support the change.
Thanks, Councillor Cairns. Further, Councillor Dannebeck.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the map here, and I feel kind of like people aren't seeing the trees for the forest here, maybe a little. We are in a crisis for homes for people, and to build something that potentially we could have people that are going to come here and work and have the opportunity to raise a family in a brand new home, because it was stated that they are going to be used as a rental to help out. I also see a huge big green space that everybody backs onto that maybe they're not seeing, that could be turned into a beautiful park maybe in the near future, or be in a phase that everybody essentially gets to enjoy, including maybe the 2 new families that live on this corner that wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to. As far as the dealings that went on with said people, I don't think that's part of the calculation here. It's about a piece of land that can be, I'll use the word maxified for lack of, maximum performance, basically. Least amount of impact, 2 families, close to town, new house. It's a no-brainer for me. And we can put this beautiful green space that everybody backs onto. It looks like it needs some work, but that's not hard to do as well. So those are my thoughts, and I'm for this.
All right, thanks for the comments, Kevin. Anything further? I have a couple things I have taken some notes on here that I'd like to mention. First of all, it is really, really unfortunate that over a long period of time, there has been either a misunderstanding or disagreement, or whatever the term is, over what that land was originally designed for. And I think it's really important that everybody understands that there has been no status change This has been an R9 residential lot since 2003, when all of the other lots in Forest Crown were in fact zoned similarly. There has not been a status change. The maps that were laid out by Anthem, we can't read into that what they were intending at the time, but when it came time to do the zoning, it was all zoned R3, including this particular piece of property. Perceptions that were otherwise that have lasted for a really long time, as I said, are really unfortunate. I think that even if this zoning change didn't happen, it's zoned R9, and an owner can go in there and build a single family residential without any approval from council at all. As long as it conforms to the zoning, they have the ability to go in and through development and building permits, get those from the city, and that does not come to council. So I think it's only a matter of time before that lot was going to be utilized in any event. The affordability thing, a comment has been made a couple of times. This isn't about affordability. I mean, these are, any construction being built today of any sizable house. I mean, we're talking, $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000. That's not under the realm of affordability. What I see is an opportunity for right sizing for, we have so many seniors in town that are living in big homes. The families are gone. They want to get out of them. They want to downsize into something different. And in fact, the duplexes that Tyee built along Rotary Drive, everybody in there is 70 years old that moved out of a big home. They just wanted something that was right sized. And we don't have enough of that type of building here in Kimberley. I guess just two more comments. First of all, there seems to be an implication that somehow because it's a duplex, that it's going to devalue properties around it. And I am baffled to understand where that comes from. The quality of design and home that Tyee built, I mean, they built half the homes that, in fact, probably half the people that have commented tonight have homes that were built by Tyee. That's the kind of quality that's going into the construction. And to suggest that this is somehow going to be an eyesore, I don't get it. I really don't. I've never seen anything Tyee built that in fact is an eyesore. I appreciate one of the comments that was made earlier about providing some time to straighten out with whatever happened with Anthem, because at the end of the day, whether we're talking about this, whether we're talking about the zoning or whether we're talking about the valuation of the property, that has absolutely nothing to do with the city of Kimberley. It has to do with Anthem and what was applied for early on, particularly as it pertains to the green space, and it's as far as the assessments and everything go, that has to do with BC assessment. We don't control that. So to hold up construction of this, of this particular dwelling for something that has not changed and has been in place for a long time, respecting the fact that the residents up there have understood something different, I don't think it would be fair to the builder either. This is only third reading. This is not adoption of the bylaw tonight. So there is time to get back to Anthem. I have no idea what remedy you might be looking for with Anthem, to be honest. But whatever that is, whatever that conversation needs to be, there's time for you to do that between now and the next, and when it next comes before council for adoption. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Carl, at the end of the meeting, we've got a Q&A, an opportunity for Q&A. So that would be the time to bring up comments or questions. Yeah. Okay, last call for comments from council. Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of adoption of third reading? Any opposed? The motion is carried. The basic minimum amount of time before it comes back to council again, Troy, is what, 2 weeks? Yeah, so the minimum amount of time is 2 weeks. So that's hopefully enough to be able to get whatever needs to be garnered from Anthem over that period of time. I also want to make just one comment. Whenever there is a change, particularly zoning, anything to do with development that comes before council, there are always two sides, and we always have those that are opposed to it, and we have those that are in favor of it. And it's really, really important, I think, for everybody to understand, because at some point in time, all of us are going to be on one side of the fence or the other. The fact that a decision may not go your way does not mean you have not been heard. The whole purpose of the hearing and the purpose of council being here is to listen, but the decision can only go one way. And whichever way that goes, I think it's important to understand that, you know, those that the decision didn't go in favor of, it does not mean you were not heard. Okay, next up we have zoning amendment bylaw 2741, which is for 99 Fernie Street. And we actually have 4 resolutions under this one this evening. The first is that council approve first reading of this zoning amendment. We'll put the motion on the floor and then get Troy to describe what we're doing. A mover, please. Councillor McGuire, thank you. Councillor Roberts seconds. Go ahead, Troy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, bylaw 2741, this is similar to bylaw 2740, where council approved moving forward with consideration of this amendment without public hearing. And again, notices were provided to adjacent property owners, notice in the paper, notice on the bulletin board and the city website. This is a bit of an unusual one, though. It's kind of undoing a zoning change that happened in 2021. And that was to change the zoning at that time from R2 to the R12 zone. And in fact, there was even a development permit issued for that project in June of 2022, and they never did proceed with any construction or development on that site. With the housing availability and affordability amendments that were adopted by council in fall of 2022, the property owner has identified that their preference is to change back to the R2 zoning, and that's what's being proposed here through this bylaw. Is to rezone it from R12 to R2, and that's to accommodate a number of duplex dwellings with attached and detached accessory dwellings, for a total of 17 units overall across the multiple properties there. Yeah, so like I said, notices were sent out and notice provided, and no comments were received. So staff is recommending that in this case we proceed with first 3 readings as well as adoption, because given the distance from Highway 95A, we're not required to wait for comment from the ministry.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Troy. Council, questions or comments? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead, Sue.
I'll just comment that, well, this absolutely makes sense to me that they're seeking to go back to the original zoning, which will be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. The one comment I've heard is, what about the second emergency egress route out of town site? So people are concerned that as population numbers grow in town site, that we need a second emergency egress. And I know that was discussed early on, probably last fall. And I think there was some signage going up, and I've been trying to find out kind of where we're at with that.
So there, in fact, is an egress for sure. The signage, Troy, do you have a comment on that?
I don't think the signage has been put up yet.
No.
I think we have signage that's ready to go, but I think there's been some concern about having it up all the time and just having versus putting it up when anticipated and when needed. So I think that's the preference. There is a few different routes that we can supplement the main 4th Avenue road as an egress there. So, but it's also another thing that we continue to look at. Is there other alternatives for? I don't think we're as worried for this proposal in particular, but there is even more raw land up there that could see a lot more housing proposed at some point. And I think we do want to have a look at what those options are and make sure we're exhausting all opportunities there. Yep.
Thank you. Just, how will it be communicated to residents in town site? Kind of, are people aren't aware at this point of that route and how the process would unfold if there were an emergency?
Speaking a little out of my realm here, but I think certainly as part of our emergency response planning, we've kind of pre-identified some of these routes, and kind of depends on the incident that we're dealing with, I guess. But there would be certainly in an emergency situation, and if there's a need to evacuate, there'd be a evacuation alert issued, and then an evacuation order that would come with detailed instructions on where to go and how to go. And again, it's going to depend a little bit on what the situation is, but and I know there's been some more general communications planning around that, further in advance of the actual incident happening, just so that there's some more general awareness and understanding there.
Thank you.
Okay, further, council? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Second motion is the council approves second reading. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns, thank you. Councillor Roberts seconds. Further conversation or discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. The council approved third reading of the bylaw. Councillor McGuire, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. Anything further? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And finally, the council adopts zoning amendment bylaw 2741. Councillor McGuire moves and Councillor Cairns seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. That particular development has, as you had mentioned, Troy, has been kind of meandering a little bit for the last couple of years. It's going to be great to finally see some shovels in the ground up there. Okay, next up, under permits, we have 2015 Warren Avenue Development Variance Permit. And the motion on the floor is that council instruct the corporate officer to issue notice to neighbors of 2015 Warren Avenue of the intent to vary the section and allow for construction of the proposed structure within the required intersection visibility sightline area. Councillor Cairns moves and Councillor Dunneback seconds. Go ahead, Troy. Sort that one out for me.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, we're identified the need for variance of this requirement in the zoning bylaw for what we phrase as the corner visibility triangle. So this was the idea that when a building is in the design and planning stage, that we take into account that kind of sight line at an intersection and make sure that those needs are addressed. I think through a combination of the history of the site here, and having through the fire and the demolition of the building, and then all the efforts made to work towards getting a new building to replace that. This particular requirement in the zoning bylaw was missed in our earlier reviews, including the review and approval of the development permit in January earlier this year. Yeah, so as we're just in the final stages of building permit review and identified this particular item here. So we're recommending that council proceed with consideration of the variance to relax that particular section, and if so supported by council, we will proceed to issue notice to adjacent property owners there and gather any feedback received. I would just note in terms of some rationale and support here is effectively the building is replacing kind of the previous condition here, so that kind of sight line issue was there before, with the way the curb and sidewalk and the corner bump outs there along Warren Avenue, that effectively creates that visibility, sightline visibility triangle there at each intersection, so that allows for that a car to to inch forward and make sure that it's safe to enter the intersection and they go through or turn either direction. And as well, being right along Warren Avenue and the highway, the Ministry of Transportation review is also required for that site plan, and they have issued their approval as well for the 1 meter setback there that is proposed off of Warren Avenue. So staff supports moving ahead with this and recommends that we issue notice, and we'll be bringing that back. Any comments received back to the next meeting, and a recommendation for final decision by council.
All right, thanks for that, Troy.
Yep.
Just for those that may not know, that is the site of the gymnastics club, or what was formerly the gymnastics building. Okay, council, questions, comments? Fairly straightforward. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, under new business, we have what is now called the Ready Grants Program community meeting date. The motion on the floor is that the Ready Grants Program, formerly the Community Initiatives Program from Columbia Basin Trust, the community meeting and considerations be held on Wednesday, April 19th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns moves. Councillor Royer seconds. Pam, did you want to make a comment?
Just very quickly, thanks very much. This is the proposed date for the community meeting for new council members. We bring in all of the applicants and they give a 2-minute rationale, excuse me, for their applications, and then council will take that away and vote. This is a process directed by Columbia Basin Trust as the funder, and members of Columbia Basin Trust will come to the meeting as well. And this date is the best date so that it doesn't interfere with anything else kind of going on.
All right, thanks, Pam. Questions or comments, council? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Next up, we have the 2023 BC Winter Games Legacy Fund grant funding allocation. And the motion is the council approve the allocation of the available $7,175 to be distributed as identified in the report. A mover, please. Councillor Roy, thank you. Councillor Roberts seconds. Discussion. Pam.
Thanks very much for your votes. This is the way it landed, and here we are.
So $7,000 wasn't a lot of money when you consider, I think the request came in at double that, or more than double that, I think. So it was
just over 16,000.
Yeah, it was a little bit of pencil sharpening to kind of get down to where we needed to be there, but I think council did a good job of balancing. Councillor Dunneback.
I'd just like to say that this makes me super happy. I attended many winter games as a young athlete, Penticton, Nelson, and I can't remember the other one at this time, but awesome experience for everybody, the athletes, the town, the facilities that get the opportunity to put something like this on really plants a seed for our youth, starting from just learning to ski to professional athletes, as we've seen here over the last weekend with some of the what they're pulling off up there. I'm super happy to see that we're doing our part as a city.
Thanks for the comment. Further, council? All right, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, we need a couple of councillors to sign up for the tax roll review. The motion on the floor is that 2 councillors plus Troy Pollock, manager of planning, be members of the parcel tax review panel for the calendar year 2023. And further, the council schedule a sitting of the parcel tax review panel for 6:30 p.m. on Monday, April the 24th in council chambers at City Hall. And further, that council authorize the chief financial officer to post advance notice of the time and place of the sitting in accordance with section 94 of the community charter, which would be the rules. All right, so do we have 2 councillors volunteer?
I'll put my hand up.
Okay, Councillor Roberts? No. And we just need a councillor. Everything will be explained by CFO Hendricks at the meeting. So Roberts and Royer. Okay, with the addition of those two names then, could I have a mover? Councillor McGuire, thank you. And Councillor Dunneback seconds. Are we okay with these guys? If not, now's the time to speak up.
Yeah, they're all right.
Okay, hearing no further comments, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. All right, last up, or rather second last up ahead of correspondence is the check run in the amount of $365,735 to be approved as paid. Mover, please. Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor Karen seconds. Anybody have any non-routines that they wish to point out or comment on? At 365,000, they pretty much have to be all routine, I would think. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, last item tonight before we get to question period is correspondence. We have 6 items. Could I have a mover to receive? Councillor Dunneback, thank you. And Councillor Karen seconds. Anything in here that anybody would like to point out or comment on? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's great to get a letter from Bev. You know, they're in dire straits right now. They need every penny they can, and for her to thank us for that letter is really appreciated. And we'll continue helping her in every way we can.
Thank you, Stephen. Anything further? Call the question. All those in favor of receipt? Any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, that moves us to question. We do have an in-camera this evening, but before we get there, we need to move through question period and councillor items. So any members of the public, either here in council chamber or listening to us online, can call in and ask questions about anything that was contained in the meeting this evening. The number to call for those online, it is 800-741-7180. And the meeting number when requested is 2774-288-4049. So anybody wishing to call in, please do that now. And I think we have at least one or a couple of comments here in the council chambers. Chris? Yeah, please. Thanks, Carl.
There was a lot of rhetoric around Anthem, and I just wanted to clarify that anything historical from phase 3 was United Communities. I don't even know if there's anyone left at Anthem. Bought United a few years back. I don't think there's any historical people left at Anthem Properties, Calgary, that were there as part of the United days. I think it's unfair to group Anthem in this as misrepresenting the property, because although they bought the company, they inherited it via that purchase. So I don't think there should be negative sentiment given to Anthem, although they need to deal with it. But just to clarify that United Communities was the one who owned and did the phase 3 property. I'm not familiar with any dealings they had with respect to 501 Forest Crown. But I think it's unfair to group Anthem as the evil here. They're dealing with historical issues, and they've been great to deal with. They're working on, there's a lot of historical issues with Forest Crown, the entire development, and they're committed to working their way through these. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew it's not Anthem that's the culprit here. This is the historical thing. So when referencing 2008, it should be United Communities. When referencing the current thing, it's Anthem.
All right, thanks for that clarification, Carl. Great points. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
You can talk loud if you want.
It's not for us.
Okay.
It's for people online.
Okay, no, the one question, and it's got nothing to do with the decision you make, but you said it's always been R9. So there would be, you said it doesn't involve the community, but it does. because there's a question of back taxes then. If this property's only been paying $1 a year and it's registered as R9, somebody owes some back taxes.
The issue has been brought up with BC Assessment, and unfortunately, the assessment of those properties is outside the purview of the city of Kimberley. As an example,
How do you mean outside the purview of the city of Kimberley?
Well, we
You
don't
pay
do
taxes to the
assessments on
city.
properties. We get assessments from BC Assessment, and based on that tax roll, that's really basically what the tax roll was that we talked about a moment ago. Based on what's in the tax roll, we then apply our tax rates to the properties as identified in the tax roll. So we don't question the assessments. Those assessments come from
If you're looking at 15
BC
years
assessment.
back taxes, maybe you should.
Well,
I'm just, that's my point.
Yeah,
That's
no,
all I'm saying.
fair enough, Chris. This goes back about 4, 5, 6 years ago now, I guess. There were actually 2 dwellings in Forest Crown that had people living in them that were not on the tax roll. And they had been built and lived in for, I don't know, whatever period of time, not paying taxes. One of our assistant planners discovered it, and BC Assessment were notified. They went back and rectified the issue. But I have no idea what their policy is on back taxes. I suspect that such a thing does not exist.
I have no idea.
Points well taken, and thank you for
Okay.
bringing that up. Yeah, appreciate it. Got a question, Marie?
A question on Hampton United. When did they purchase them? Because I got 2019 when I talked to Roy James from Anthem United. And that's when I addressed this particular issue about the green space back then, when the development behind me was being presented. And that's when I was made aware of the fact that that property had a street address and it was R9. And it was like, thank you for the phone call this morning confirming that Anthem United had no plans to change their original plans of REM Lot A. This is the green space adjacent to 403 or 503 Forest Crown. So I'm not letting them off the hook for that one. But the other one, I have another question is, it was a nice touch to put forward the renting to counter off the affordability question. Does that mean that the city can hold the developer to renting those 2 townhouses on
No.
forever?
No,
So
it's private property.
So the presentation is mute, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Well, I don't think there was a commitment being made on anybody's.
It was addressed.
There was a suggestion that this was an option. So we'll see how it unfolds.
Okay.
Points taken. Thank you. Go ahead.
I think it's more his point, just curiosity for myself. So it was mentioned in the comments that the new duplex would be rentals. Does the proposed zoning change influence the function of the property? For instance, once your chunk is complete, does the property have to be rentals or can be sold as separate units? I assume it's just private property. So
It is, and yeah, no, the zoning doesn't preclude the whether it's a rental or sale.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything online, Maurice?
There's nobody online.
There is? Oh, no.
We have 18 viewers right now, but nobody's on the phone to
Okay,
make comments.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do a quick round on councillor items. Sandra, start with you.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since we last met, I have attended a meeting of the Kimberley Arts Council. They've been spending a fair amount of energy working with Parks Rec, Nicole, with discussion around their outdoor stage area that they're looking to develop. And that's moving along really well. And they're getting prepared with their financials for their year end. And that'll be the first time I'll get a chance to see that since I've been created a liaison with. That's it.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Sandra. Sue.
Thank you. So just one meeting participated in last week with Rotary, Kimberley Seniors Housing Society, and the Marysville Alliance Housing Society on efforts to advance affordable and social housing. And all were keen to really help and support one another, which was great because there's so much learning to be done, so much new information coming out every day. So it was good to see people reaching out to help each other out.
Thank
That's
you.
all.
Woody.
Yeah, no meetings to report, but I did sign up for the webinar with CVT on the grant. They're re-envisioning their priorities for the next. I think they do them every 3 or 4 years. Is that right?
5.
5.
Yeah, 5 plus now.
5 plus now. So yeah, they're setting out their
Awesome.
their main goals for the next 5 years for our community. So it's important to engage in those. And there's more information online for anybody that wants to be part of those discussions.
Yeah, thanks for that, Woody. April the 5th is the date for Kimberley, and it's
Yeah.
at the conference center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's open to the public. Anybody can show up. I think it's 6:30 p.m.
Well,
that
there's an
the
open house at
consultation
3.
starts at 6:30, and then it's open house before that.
Yeah, open house at 3 o'clock, and then there's a directed session at 6. Anyway, as you said, it's online, cbt.org, and all the detail is there.
Yeah, and CPD is a major grant funder of many projects in Kimberley, and pretty much any, many city grants as well. So like many of the grants we're getting for our facilities, upkeep and upgrades are coming from CBT. So it's really important for to be engaged in that process because of the amount of funding that goes towards our community. So if you see specific goals for those funds, it'd be good to pitch your ideas.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Woody. Kevin?
Yeah, just been talking with Mick and the railroad a little bit, and we got some fun and exciting stuff coming down the tracks literally this year. The one big thing we're going to do again is sell a bunch of trains for advertisement for local business to give local kids the opportunity to see a part of our history for free. So
excellent.
As long as they come with an adult, it was a big hit last year, and we're looking to really improve it this year and have a few more ideas that are in the works as well. So it should be an exciting season there, I think.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that, Kevin. Stephen.
I am happy to report I just had a Mark Creek Lions Club last Wednesday, and Marysville Days is a go for June the 3rd. So mark that on your calendar.
All right.
That is a huge event. Food trucks needed, volunteers needed. Please come and have some fun. And that's the Lions Club. And track practice starts next Tuesday and Thursday. So come out there and join the club.
So are you the official council liaison now for the Mark Creek Lions Club?
You could say that.
Thanks for that, Stephen. Awesome. The only thing I want to mention quickly before we move into in-camera is the work that Dreadnought Ski Racing has been doing over the past 2 months. Starting the last week in January and leading up to the end of this week, there have been 4 race series going on in Kimberley, some really, really high-level FIS races, and we're finishing off this week with the para racing. And I had the privilege of last night being at the medals ceremony up at the Stemwinder. It was not only inspirational, but extremely motivational. I really, really appreciated the invitation. And boy, what Dreadnought Racing are doing for the city of Kimberley is amazing. And I would just point out that to make those races happen, and it's over this last 2-month period, they have had to have significantly north of 100 volunteers volunteering for the last 2 months to make that happen. So we talk an awful lot about volunteering in Kimberley, and these guys really go under the radar screen, but it's a big, big number of volunteers doing an awful lot of great work for the city. Okay, with that, I need a mover to move in camera, or motion to move in camera. Councillor Dunneback, thank you, and Councillor Royer seconds. All those in favor? That motion is passed. Thanks, folks. I appreciate you being here tonight, and all of the robust